This is a quick look at all the tracks on the 2022 calendar. This should tell you what to look for each weekend. I'm Luke Trigger, and this is SimplyF1. The Bahrain Grand Prix. A fast track with many overtaking zones and tricky corners, most notably turn 10, which can throw even the best of drivers. This is the track with the most overtakes per race historically, and is an exciting opener to the season. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. First featured in 2021, this is the fastest street circuit on the roster with an average speed of 252 km per hour. This track puts enormous strain on the tyres through its 27 fast-flowing corners. The Australian Grand Prix. The second street race this year is held at Albert Park in Melbourne. With wide flowing corners and a revised track layout to improve overtaking, this should make for some good racing after a 2-year break from the track. The Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. This circuit has lots of tight corners, but also has great space for overtaking. This track notably held a massive collision involving George Russell and Valtteri Bottas in the 2021 season, and is one of the oldest circuits on the calendar. The Miami Grand Prix. The first of the 2 races held in the United States this year is the new addition to the calendar, Miami. The track is built around the famous Hard Rock Stadium and has tight corners and a long back straight, which could lead to some great racing. We'll have to see. The Spanish Grand Prix. With long straights and a variety of corners, the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya is a good all-rounder circuit, but is known as a tyre eater. This track is also being used for the first pre-season test this year in mid-February. The Monaco Grand Prix. A historic track around the narrow streets of Monaco and its harbour, tight corners and not much room for overtaking. This race has been on the calendar nearly every season since 1950, with the only missed event being during the pandemic in 2020. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix. A mix of wide, fast straights and tight sharp corners around the capital city of Azerbaijan, Baku. Last year there were 2 tyre punctures down the long straight for both Max Verstappen and Lance Stroll, which triggered the infamous magic restart for Lewis Hamilton and brought the first Aston Martin podium for Sebastian Vettel. The Canadian Grand Prix. This is a series of chicanes and hairpins with some good overtaking spots. This track has one of the highest overtakes per race on the current F1 calendar and is the home circuit of both Nicholas Latifi and Lance Stroll. This track held the famous 2011 race where Jenson Button managed to win the race with McLaren after a crazy drive where he went from 20th to 1st. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our future video in our Looking Back series all about this race. The British Grand Prix. Silverstone is set on an old airport and is extremely quick, hosting the fastest corner on the calendar at Copse Corner, with speeds over 280 km per hour. In 2020, this track saw an incredible 3-tired win by Lewis Hamilton after a puncture on the penultimate lap of the British Grand Prix. The Austrian Grand Prix. This was the first track to feature twice in the same year. The Austrian Grand Prix features the fiendishly difficult Turn 3, which slows cars from 315 km per hour to just 90 up to the very unforgiving corner. This short track provides plenty of entertainment and every mistake is very costly, meaning we always get great racing. The French Grand Prix. The Circuit de Paul Ricard is most recognisable by the enormous runoff areas with the red and blue rubber strips. It is wide and open and is a very forgiving track to drive. There is a great opportunity for battles through the second DRS zone and into Turn 8. The Hungarian Grand Prix. This track is often called Monaco without the walls. This track is very hard to overtake on, due to very few passing spots, all of which make it hard to make a move stick. Drivers need to flow through the second sector in a rhythm for the best possible time. The Belgian Grand Prix. Spa is one of the most famous tracks on the F1 roster. It is situated in the hills of the Ardennes, and it's the longest track on the F1 calendar, 7,004 metres, just 4 metres longer than the regulations allow. In 2021, this race was also the shortest F1 race in history. Because of the heavy rainfall on Sunday, the race measured just 14 kilometres before being red flagged and half the points being awarded. This also led to Nikita Mazepin being awarded the fastest lap of the race. The Dutch Grand Prix. On the sand dunes near Amsterdam, the Zandvoort circuit is a tight twisting track, with the sharpest being the 19-degree banking at the Turn 3 hairpin. The track is notoriously hard to overtake on, with the passes only really happening into turns 1 and 11, but the racing is still fast and tight. The Italian Grand Prix. Monza. The Temple of Speed is the fastest track on the F1 roster, with an average speed of 265 km per hour. This fan favourite has evolved over the years, with the original layout being built in 1922 and having an enormous banked oval stuck on the end of a modern layout. The Russian Grand Prix. The Sochi Autodrome is on the site of the 2014 Winter Olympic Village, on the shores of the Black Sea. It has a mix of tight sharp corners and long fast curves around the seafront resort. Notably, the turns 14 to 17 are very easy to get wrong, as they come quickly and are especially tricky because of the heavy braking. The Singapore Grand Prix. The night race around the Marina Bay is exciting. Lots of corners, lots of braking points, lots could go wrong for the drivers. There's not so many opportunities for overtakes, but the fighting can cause accidents at every corner. This is the most physically demanding race on the calendar due to high humidity and temperatures. The Japanese Grand Prix. The historic Suzuka track holds one of the best races on the calendar and is the only figure of 8 track currently raced in F1. This track overall is a great mixture of speed and technical driving, which fully tests the driver's skills and abilities throughout the whole race. Weather could play a huge role over the course of the weekend, as we saw back in the 2019 Grand Prix, where qualifying was moved from Saturday to Sunday because of a typhoon. The United States Grand Prix. The Circuit of the Americas near Austin, Texas can hold nearly 500,000 fans over a weekend, spread across its 20 corners. One of the most characteristic features on this track is the steep 31-metre climb from the start-finish straight into Turn 1. The Mexican Grand Prix. The track is 2 kilometers higher in altitude than Monaco, and the cars have the same setup but only have as much downforce as they do at Monza. This is a great challenge because the cars are starved of oxygen, which they need for combustion, cooling and downforce. The circuit has a long straight followed by a twisting back section and ending through the iconic baseball stadium. The Brazilian Grand Prix. This is a really fast track with big changes in the elevations throughout the lap. The start is 43 metres above turn 4. We have been given a couple of amazing races at Interlagos in the recent years, with Hamilton's charge from last to first place during the 2021 Grand Prix. And also, the action-packed Grand Prix of 2019, where both Ferraris got involved in a collision resulting in the DNF of Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel, meaning Carlos Sainz also took a surprise podium when Hamilton received a penalty after the race ended. The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The Yas Marina circuit has been the last track on the calendar for the past 12 years. The newly revised circuit is a mixture of fast straights and a more winding second sector, following changes to the layout from the 2021 season that made the track better for overtaking. We were handed a crazy season finale. What was your favourite track that hosted an F1 race? Would you like to see some classics return to the calendar? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and ta-ra!